You see here my dog um, uh, upstairs. He was laying down there. He looks more like a Twinkie, but it's actually a English Bulldog. All right, so this is a really interesting one because this is my kitchen now. Hey everyone, this is Nate, and this is the Nader Tater channel. Let's talk about thermal imaging. All right, this is a pretty neat device. I was pretty excited to get it, and it's a thermal imaging camera. Now, in the past, I've had this guy, and this is a infrared thermometer. And this is just an old school one. You point a little laser at the wall, and it gives you a temperature readout. You can see down here in my basement, it's 65 degrees on the wall there. So this shoots a beam out, and it's roughly a couple inches big around that is just taking an average of, or if you get further away, it might be a foot of size, and it gives you a rough idea of how hot things are, but it's nothing close to what a thermal imaging camera can do. So that's what I want to show you here. Now, Topdon did send this to me for the review, but it's an unbiased review, and I'm going to give you my opinion of it. I've had it for over a week now, and I've been testing it and playing with it, and you keep coming up with new things to do with it. So it comes in this little box. It has a case that comes included. The case is actually pretty nice and handy. It has a foam insert that keeps it protected, and it comes with a short USB cable. Now this would be if you wanted to, two things. One, if you want to plug it into your computer, you can use this, or two, even if you want to have the camera separate from your phone or tablet, this gives you a little extension cord that now you're no longer constrained to how your phone is oriented versus how the camera is oriented. And then it gives you a cloth here to keep the lens clean in case it gets dirty. So in here itself, I pull out this little guy. This is all that it is, and it's a single piece unit. There's no internal battery. It does use they say like a quarter watt of power from your phone, which gives it plenty of runtime, hours of runtime on a phone. But there's the lens there, and again, this one is a USB-C, so you do have to pay attention to these because they are going to be specific to a type of phone that has the connector on it. And then the other thing to watch is also for clearance to any kind of large case or whatnot. For this demonstration, I'm actually going to use my tablet. This is a Samsung tablet, but you can also use a phone or a Windows-based computer to do it as well. Now, as far as the instructions that come with the box itself, is a very simple instruction booklet that basically just tells you to go online and download the TC app that they have, and I've already done that. And then once you do that, there's really nothing to it. You just plug it in. So let me just show you how this works, and then I'll go through and talk about some of the features of it. Now, one of the things here is, looking at what are the competition out there, and FLIR is one of the, I guess more well known. That's at least a name that I recognized out there. And so I looked at what they offer, and they do have very similar type products. And like a FLIR One or One Pro or One Pro LT. And if you look at the price point, this one's a little under $300. This one has much better resolution, and also it has better thermal range. So this one, they say, basically goes from -4 Fahrenheit to a little over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit is what it covers on its range. Alright, so the other important spec is the IR image resolution. So that's separate from the visual resolution that you say, like how big of a picture does it take. That is different. The infrared one is normally much lower. On this one, it's 256 by 192 pixels. So that's how much detail you get for the temperature change. Now, some of the other ones I was talking about, like the FLIR, some of their comparable ones are about 80 by 60 pixels. So much fewer pixels there, which means you're going to get less resolution out there. Now, also the picture quality is also lower on that FLIR unit. So that's something I'm looking at here as a comparison of, is this one the right one to go with, basically. But let's put it in and show you some demonstrations of what I've done with it and some ideas that you can use this for you at either at home or maybe even in business. Alright, so I'm going to take this, I'm going to plug it into my tablet here, and I'm going to plug it in facing me just for this demonstration purpose here. As soon as I plug it in, it asks me if I want to launch the app. You can see it has 4 main selections here that you can mess with. The only time I went to personal information is really kind of more of a settings tab, and I use that to change my temperature units. The default was Celsius, so I changed it to Fahrenheit because I'm American and that's how I think. There is the only other thing I wanted to see here is a temperature correction. This does let you adjust the temperature correction if you're kind of an advanced user and you know what you're doing there. Otherwise, I left all that alone. And now we're looking at really the top one is the thermal imaging. So that's where you'll go in there and you'll see that live view. So if I click that one, it's going to pull up that camera feed and it's going to show you me right now. So this is me talking, and what you can see three different cursors that are giving you a temperature readout, and it's giving you the lowest temperature of the screen, which is that right over my shoulder, 62.5. It's giving you the highest temperature on the screen, which is right about my eyeball at about 93, and then it's giving you the center of the picture, which is right at my throat there. So I can go around and it's going to track those temperatures for you. Now that is the default setting. You can change that, and you can do some other ones in there like the line setting and a plane setting, or you can pick your own points. So if we click this kind of bullseye setting, the target, there's the dot setting, and this is where I can pick my own dots on the screen, and I say I want you to hold those places, and I think it lets you have up to 3 of them, and it will keep those placed. Once you add a fourth one, it takes away the oldest one. Now you can also do a line setting, so this would be going on a line, and that will give you the highest and lowest temperature on that line. So depending on what you're doing, that might be really useful to have a line maybe across a wall, across electrical panels, or maybe pipes or whatnot, and it'll show you where the hot and cold spots are. Now very similar to that, you can do a plane. So this is basically making a square or a rectangle, and now it's going to keep that rectangle in mind for the highest and lowest temperatures again. Now again, you can hit delete and clear them all out. I can go back to full image, and now that's where it's giving me the full image for what I had before. Alright, you can also go in here and you can change the color scheme. So just if you want different colors, you can change that in here. I just leave it at this default one. I think it's perfectly fine. If I go to settings, there are a couple of settings. One, you can rotate the image. So by default, if I were to take this image and rotate it on my tablet, it has me sideways now. And so if you want it to not be sideways when it's in a landscape mode, you can hit the rotate, and that will prevent it from going in there. The other one is the detail. So I don't know why you necessarily would want less details, but this one defaults to medium for all these settings. And I can go in here and I can crank it up, and a lot of times it's kind of hard. Sorry, it's hard to do with my hand. It's hard to tell sometimes the difference in some of these going from the medium to high. Other ones do make a big difference. Like the contrast, for example, makes a huge difference if you were to crank it all the way to the low or the high setting. So that one is going to really affect your image. If I go all the way down to, for example, low, it's probably going to have me all one color because there's not a big difference in my temperature here between my face and the wall. We have like a 30-degree delta or something. So, and then if I go way too high, if I go to full contrast, it's going to really freak out with me. So, alright, so some of those are very sensitive measurements. We'll go back to the 50%. That seems to work well for the contrast. The other thing you can do is turn the color bars on and off. That's just on that sidebar there on if you want those. And then the DIY one is where you can set your own max and min temperature limits, and that will help define your colors there on your screen. The last thing I want to show is the image in image. Now, this one is going to be messed up because the image is of the camera that's facing out that way. I don't know if there's a way to change that. I guess that is one downside to having the camera facing me versus flipped around where it's facing kind of on the back side of the tablet. I'll flip it around and show you that, but that is kind of a nice feature to have the picture-in-picture. So that is having your tablet's regular camera there and shown, and I guess recorded if you were recording in line with your thermal imaging. So that really helps you connect the dots of what you're looking at. Alright, and then the last setting there is on the far left is that little camera icon, and that obviously lets you take pictures. So you can hit the middle button there, and then it will take a picture of you. And then on the left you can see the gallery. It shows that picture that we just took of myself. The other one is the video camera, so now it can also record video for you, and it saves that here on the gallery. So I'll show you some videos of that in a little while. The one, I guess, honest criticism I will share with you is just doing some research of the competition. It sounds like the FLIR one does save the temperature profile, and it allows you to go in there after you take a picture and pinpoint different places and get the temperature directly. I haven't seen a way to do that necessarily with this one. I don't know if there is some third-party software that we could use that would actually do that. But on this one, at least, when I pull up a picture, it does not allow me to do that. Now, what I do want to show you here is this is the picture size, and you can see the resolution there is 1600 by 2133. So that is the size of picture that it takes. So that's certainly much bigger than the 256 by 192 of the thermal imaging, just to give you an idea of how big of a picture quality it does take. I have some other videos. You can see here my dog upstairs. He was laying down there. He looks more like a Twinkie, but it's actually a English Bulldog. Okay, so the other neat feature that it can do here is, in addition to this thermal imaging section, there is a temperature monitoring section. So this one is really neat from the standpoint that it's designed really for monitoring a temperature in a specific area. So I can generate an image here, so I can just have it pointing at me, and I can tell it, you know, let's have it a plane, and I'll have it over my face. So I'll select my plane to monitor, and it will start recording. So this is what is going to keep an eye on that specific area of the camera. And I guess the idea here is that your camera would be stationary, not moving around. But it's tracking the highest and lowest temperature. So if I move my head out of the way here, you know, then it's going to see that high temperature drop down, right? So if you're monitoring something like a electrical circuit, an engine, you know, hot water, whatever it might be, exhaust gas, HVAC system, and its temperature, this would allow you to see it over even a long period of time. You can see that you can do by minute, hour, day. So you could have this thing set up and it can monitor and track stuff long term. So I thought that was a pretty neat built-in feature. And again, you're not confined to just this box. You can pick dots. So you can have it set up and pick 3 specific dots. You can pick a line. You can pick the plane like I picked here. So I thought that was a pretty neat feature that was built into the app. Alright, so now I have the camera pointing back so it's facing away from me. So we're looking at the wall here. I'm just going to compare it to this infrared thermometer. Now, these both have errors, and this one is about 3.5 degrees of temperature accuracy that it has. I don't know exactly actually how accurate this one is here, but let's just compare it on a spot on the wall here. So I'm just going to pick that board on this camera. I'm got about 62 degrees, and on this one I'm about 64 degrees. So I'm about 2 degrees off. So that's certainly within the measurement error of these devices, and if you need something more accurate than that, you probably won't be looking at a tool like this anyway. So this is really just to give you the big idea. So if I look up here at my ceiling, I can see obviously the lights are hotter. They have a heat vent right beside it, and if you notice here, the app automatically changes the color scheme based off the temperature that you're looking at. So if you go from a cold area to a hot area, it will change the color scale so that you are seeing something where you can see a delta in temperature range between there. So let's go and I'm going to walk around and just show you some stuff in here. Alright, so in here you can see very clearly, I can see studs in the wall actually. So this is a basement wall, and this is actually up against the ground. But you can see here, I can see exactly where the studs are, and I can see that the ceiling is hotter, obviously with the heat vent up there. That's not on at the moment, but I can also see that's a little camera down there, so you can see the camera is putting out some heat. And then we can walk around and look at other places as well for their temperature. So here's another bedroom, and again in here I can see the studs. I can look outside and you can see outside it is obviously much colder on the window, 50 degrees, 48 degrees or so, and you can see the reflection there of me looking at it. At least I hope that's a reflection of me, not someone outside. Okay, so now I'm upstairs and I'm gonna show you a couple of neat things. The basement's not really that exciting actually, but you can see on my walls and here in the den, I have a couple interesting things. So here, this bright spot there, one is you gotta look at the temperature delta. So you can see it's 70 degrees. The wall right beside it is about 67, right? So we're only talking about 3 degrees or so of delta temperature, but it's very defined there. And so what that is, that's actually a heat duct. So that's HVAC ducting is behind that wall and it's actually heating that wall up. You can see it on this side as well. The other thing you can see is in this corner pocket, I have a cold pocket, and that is a outside wall, and that's an outside corner. So I can see there that, I don't probably have good insulation right there in that corner because it is, let's see if I compare it to a temperature right beside it. It's 66 and over there. So it's 10 degrees colder in that little corner. So that corner doesn't have great insulation. I can see that in this other far outside corner. Again, I have some cold spots, and that's fairly normal, but it also could show you some places that you can maybe improve the insulation in some of these areas specifically. So you can see the corners are all cold. There's my little dog. He loves to sit by the fireplace even though it's not on right now. But I can also look at these windows as another indicator of how much cold air. Right now it's cold outside. It's probably, I don't know, 30 or something. But you can see my windows in here are about 52 at the coldest in here. But I can walk over to some other windows and we can kind of compare them and just have some contrast. All right, so this is another cool area here. You can see this is another very clear hot area in the ceiling. Now again, it's only relatively hot compared to the surface. It's only 72 degrees versus the area colder beside it is about 4 degrees colder. But it's because I have hot ducts are hot water pipes that run through there. Now, if I look at some of these windows, I think this window is an older window here. Let's just see what it registers. Yeah, you see it's 50 degrees or 49 degrees. So it is a few degrees colder than the other window in there that had been replaced. All right, so just to give you a visual reference here of what this looks like if I were to add a overlay. If I do image and image, I gotta open up this tablet cover here. But you can see what we're looking at, a lot better with the overlay. And you can see in here, you can see the stud. So this is acting as kind of a weak stud finder. You can see the areas, even this archway is kind of cool because it has lots of smaller beam that make up, the arch that's in there. So that's kind of a neat thing that you can visualize with this. All right, so this is a really interesting one because this is my kitchen now. And I can see lots of cold spots on this ceiling there. So like that one is one that I could easily look at up in the attic. That's an area where it looks like maybe the insulation isn't fully covered around that one light there. You can see obviously in the corners they're cold. I would say that's again fairly typical. But then I have some other areas around these recessed lights that looks like the insulation is not tucked in as well as it could be relative to some other places. So again, this one here, that one doesn't have as warm of an area. So let's see, it's 57 degrees versus the one right beside it is 63. So 6 degrees of delta that I might be able to fix for free by getting in the attic and trying to tighten up some of those places where it looks like it's a little bit leakier than it should be. All right, and then this is kind of cool. So this bright color here, this is actually a HVAC return duct. But what you can see is that it goes down into the basement. And you can see both that it takes up 2 cavities and then there's a stub between it. So that's how sensitive this is. You literally are looking through the wall. So it's saying it's 67 degrees and the cavity beside it is about 65. So only a degree and a half difference, but it really highlights it and shows it. All right, so I showed a lot of things kind of around my house, of things you can look at and see. There was a thing I could have used it for actually a little while earlier this year, and that's where I was having a breaker trip, and I could even smell hot wire and in my barn, and I couldn't find where the problem was. It was actually done by an electrician, went through metal conduit, and if I would have had this tool then, I could have looked and visualized and found where it was actually shorting out against the metal conduit and melting the insulation. It was getting hot. If I could have looked at it with this, I could have found that very quickly and easily versus me having to go through there painstakingly and try to find where there was a connection that was shorting out. So that's another area for car work. You can see things that are getting hot. It could be a wheel bearing, brakes, engine, exhaust, all that kind of stuff you can really look at in great detail. So there's lots of uses for these things. I think it's really cool that they are so tiny, compact, and really they're getting to a place where it's quite affordable to buy these. So I think it's a great tool. You know, this appears to do everything they say it does. I haven't found anything where it doesn't work like it says. The app has several features in it. It is only Android. I don't think they have an iOS one, but Android tablets, phones, and then Windows PC works. So if you have one of those and you want it, that's great. Do know that this USB port is not adjustable. So you want to make sure if you have like a big case on it that you might have to use an extension, or you might have to use the included cable to get you that extra distance. So know that the cable does have a USB-A port, but you can unplug it and then it's just a male to female or an extension for the USB-C port. So that's how the cable can be used for both a computer or a phone. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and it was helpful to you. Now feel free to ask any questions or comments that you have down below in the comment section, and don't forget to give me the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. So thank you for watching and take care.